Hi, welcome. I'm Rachel Kramer.
Hey.
I am the editor-in-chief of Residence 11, which you can find at residence11.com. We're a website and community that celebrates, that celebrates sensuality, romance, intimacy, and loving in a new age of human connection. And this is our monthly author series where we'll be interviewing authors and highlighting their work. Today, we're talking to romance author Lucy Eden, whose books include Everything's Better with Abby and the romance genre lover's ultimate book of fun and games, among many others. And she's going to be sharing more with us about those. And you can hear her live October 7th and 8th. And we haven't finalized the schedule yet, but we're holding our East Coast Desire Summit. Those dates, the weekend of October 7th and 8th. So please come hear Lucy on our romance and erotica panel, which I will be moderating. You can get more information at summit.residence11.com. So let me tell you a little bit more about Lucy. You can visit her website at lucyeden.com. And Lucy Eden is the nom de plume of a romance-obsessed author who writes the kind of romance she loves to read. She's a sucker for alphas with a soft, gooey center, over-the-top romantic gestures, strong and smart MCs, humor, love at first sight, or pretty damn close, happily ever afters, and of course, dirty and steamy love scenes. When Lucy isn't writing, she's busy reading or listening to every book she can get her hands on, romance or otherwise. She lives and loves in New York with her husband, 2 children, a turtle, and a Yorkshire Terrier. And make sure you hit subscribe wherever you're watching this so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming interviews. All right, so Lucy, before we get to your writing career, I want to talk about reading romance. Do you remember the first romance novel you read, and how did you get introduced to romance?
I honestly don't remember. I've been reading since I was 4, and I was a pretty voracious and advanced reader. So I really couldn't pinpoint the first book I read, the first romance book I read, because I probably have read a romance book and didn't realize it was romance at the time. But I always say that my first official foray into romance was Jude Devereaux's Velvet series.
Can you tell us more about that? I mean, I know what that is, but people who might not know.
Yeah, so it's a quadrilogy, and it's about 4 brothers. It's historical romance. I believe it's set in the 1700s. There's Velvet Song, the Highland Velvet. Oh my goodness, Velvet Song, Highland Velvet, Velvet Promise, and what was the 4th one? Velvet. Okay.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
So
yeah. Wait, how did you find these? Like, did you find them at like the drugstore, at the bookstore, at the library?
Yeah. So I was working at a restaurant called Penang on the Upper East Side. I think it's in the 70s. Well, it's not there anymore, but it was like in the 70s or 80s. But anyway, our hostess was reading it, and I love reading books. I read everything. And I was like, what are you reading? And she's like, oh my God, you're going to love this book. So I read it, like first few chapters. I had to stop because I had to work, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. As soon as my shift was over, I read that one in a couple of hours, and then I went to Barnes and Noble and got more. And yeah, I finished the whole series in a weekend. So yeah, somebody introduced me to Jude Devereaux, and then romance just kind of officially got folded in to all the books I was already reading.
And then can we fast forward a little? How did you go from reading romance to writing your own romances? Was that something you were thinking about for a long time, or was there a specific inspiration? And can you tell us more about what your first romance was?
Yeah, I never really set out to write romance. I knew I was going to write. I've always wanted to write a book. I just never knew about what. I've written stories, never really published anything. I had some poetry published like a million years ago. But yeah, my very first romance, it was a very short erotica story. I just wanted to see if I could publish something, like finish something and publish it, because that's the hardest thing, right? Just getting that one over with. And yeah, I wrote one that I liked. I thought it was cute. I designed a cover for it in Pick Monkey, if anybody remembers that. I still think it's a great cover. And yeah, I published it on KDP, and a few people bought it. So I just kept writing, and my stories just kept getting longer and longer until, here I am, like 20 books later. Yeah, writing novels, short stories, novellas. Um, yeah, the
And
whole.
so I want to talk about your publishing journey. You self-publish your books.
Yes.
Can you talk about how you came to that decision? Did you always know you wanted to self-publish? And this might be a separate question, but is self-publishing something you'd recommend to other authors?
Yeah. So for me, um, I did a lot of research on publishing, basically how to get your books published, how to submit, and all those other things, and it just never appealed to me. It just really took the excitement out of the process for me. I'm also a person who is very hands-on. I'm the type of person who loves to see how the sausage is made. So I, just learning the publish of self the process of self-publishing, which is more exciting for me, and it still is. I'm learning something every day. So yeah, so for me it was just kind of a way to learn as much as I could about the publishing process, and also yeah, just really just have control over my voice and my brand. And it's just yeah, something that comes natural to me, just learning as much as I can about the process and figuring things out. And as far as would I recommend it, I absolutely would recommend it. It is a great way to learn about publishing and how publishing works. It's a great way to get your work out there. You learn a lot about you know things that you don't really, as an author, if you don't know any better, things you usually don't associate with writing, which is designing covers, formatting books, ISBN numbers, uploading your book to different publishers, getting your work copyrighted, marketing, advertising, so many, hiring your own editors and proofreaders and things like that. So that, to me, I enjoy that. But if you are a person who would also enjoy that, then I think self-publishing is definitely for you. Otherwise, yeah, I would say, go the traditional route if everything I listed does not sound like your cup of tea.
And along the same lines, what do you think it takes to be successful as a self-published author? I mean, is there overlap between that and traditional publishing? Are there other sets of skills that you need within self-publishing to reach readers?
I think if you're self-published or traditionally published, it is definitely in your best interest to know everything you can about how the business works, and not necessarily rely on your team to necessarily educate you on those things. So I do, excuse me. So I do think it's a good idea. You will definitely learn so much. And as far as what it takes to be successful, I would say consistency, perseverance. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to learn lessons and ask questions. And I mean, the best answer is definitely marketing. Really, write the best book you can, but also spend time learning how to reach your audience, because you could have the best book in the world, but if no one knows it exists, you're not going to sell very many copies. So, learning how to market your book is very, very important, and I think that's important for self-published, traditional, and hybrid authors, is knowing how to engage with your audience.
And then going back to your writing, You have written in various romance subgenres, from contemporary to paranormal. How do you decide which type of romance you'll write next? Are you going based on what you want to read, what readers are telling you they want to read, or just to keep it lively for yourself? And how do you, I guess, how do you research those markets? And yeah, but really, like, what motivates you to pick a certain genre? And then you've written many series, so how do you know? Do you know in advance with the series, like, how many books it's going to be, or does that develop as you write?
So for my Lucy Eden books, it is really I don't really plan very well, and I'm definitely a mood writer. Um, yeah, it's really whatever I feel like writing. I mean, there have been times where I'll have an assignment or I'll get some writing prompts for maybe an anthology or something, and that kind of helps me along. But no, it's really kind of random, just whatever I feel like writing. And it's always, always, always whatever I want to read. I am, the author who loves to read her own books. I love my stories. And yeah, I hope that that shows. But for I have another pen name, and for that pen name, I actually planned a 6-book series and wrote the 6-book series and kind of plotted it out so they all kind of, blend into each other. And, that was a really fun experiment. And, there's definitely a huge difference. I think a positive difference with, knowing, what you're going to create ahead of time and working through that, um, rather than, just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. But, I still continue to do it. I just get ideas and I write them. Usually series aren't planned. For Lucy Eden, they come about by, people, me, but also other readers falling in love with B characters and people saying, I really like that character. Like, are they going to get their own story? And I was like, you know what? Probably. And, they end up with the story. So I wish I was better at planning my series. Like maybe that's, that's something that I will work on. But yeah, right now it's just whatever I feel like writing usually.
And do you have any favorite either book or series of yours? And is there, this might overlap, but is there a reader favorite among them?
I mean, I'll answer the reader favorite first. Definitely is Blind Date with a Book Boyfriend, and that is something that everybody um, loves. It's a novella and it's a love letter to romance readers. So yeah, that's definitely um, my everyone's favorite. My favorite, that's really hard. I would probably say either Cherishing the Goddess or Everything's Better with Lisa. But I do love all of my books. They're all like really special to me for different reasons. So I hope that answered the question. Oh, and of course the activity book that I released, the Romance Lovers
Tell us
Ultimate
more
Guide.
about that. But also,
Mhm.
before that, I would love to know a little bit more about Blind Date with a Book Boyfriend. Like, how did that come about, and what's the plot, and why do you think that one has been so successful?
Okay, so that actually has a funny story. So it kind of like um yeah, I mean, a lot of it was imposter syndrome. So I was invited with 3 weeks' notice to do a signing at the Ripped Bodice, and it was me and three New York Times bestselling authors, and I'm
Can you
not
tell
New York.
people what the Rip Goddess is?
Okay, yeah. So the Ripped Bodice is a romance-only bookstore in Culver City, California, which is a little part of LA. Just to give you like some geographic reference. And it's iconic. It's a really popular bookstore, and they're actually opening one in Brooklyn down the street from my house. I'm very excited. um, but yeah, it's a very big deal to do a book signing there. And I was like, ooh, it's me and three really popular authors, and I wanted to do something to make myself stand out. So I thought it would be fun just to write a little story that was set in the ripped bodice, and I planned to give it away at the signing. And I called my friend who lives in Culver City. She's a screenwriter. Oops, sorry, I kicked my computer. She's a screenwriter, and she lives in Culver City. So I just asked her everything I could ask her about her neighborhood. I outlined the story that night and wrote the first chapter, and then I had finished the first draft in 4 days, sent it off to my editor, got a cover designed, uploaded it to, I think I did BookFunnel, whatever, like any to distribute the thing. And I also sent it to my ARC readers. So I go do the signing, everything is great. I'm giving away the book. And then on my way back, a few of my ARC readers were messaging me saying, hey, I've been telling people about this book and we can't find the link to pre-order it. And I saw a couple tweets where people are like, everyone's talking about this boyfriend book and I can't find it. And I'm like, that is very strange. So I was like, well, actually, it's not for sale. It's just like a little giveaway thing that I did. And one in particular, Corey Alexander, who I miss and is no longer with us, they said, well, you need to put this up for sale because people want to buy this. I want more people to read this. And I did. I put it, I uploaded it to Amazon, and within a few hours, which is very rare for Amazon, it was available, and I had already had sales, and it just kind of went on from there. It wasn't even, it was just an idea I had to make myself stand out from other authors that wasn't supposed to be for sale. And, now it's my most popular book. So the plot is a woman from New York who is, she works in computers. She's a coder. She is in Culver City for a job interview, and it's really like a job that can change her life. And she's very nervous about it. And she's in a bookstore and she's looking at books. And this guy, she's in front of the blind date with a book display at the Ripped Bodice. If you've ever seen it, it's just books that are wrapped with gift wrap, and there's like a little clue on the front. And the thing is, like, you can either guess what the book is, or you can just go and buy it and be surprised, which is also fun. So, yeah, this guy just strikes up a conversation with her, and they click and they end up spending the entire day together. He's also a romance book lover. She's a romance book lover. And it really, it just kind of gives you this really sweet, swoony, like first date that you never want to end feeling. And it also mentions a lot of romance books in it. So it's very meta. There are a lot of Easter eggs. So yeah, it's fun, and it takes place at the Ripped Bodice, and the date happens around Culver City. So I actually have a swag map. I don't have one like handy, but I'm gonna like reveal my age, I think, here. But if you've ever read the Sunday comics in the newspaper where they had the family circus, where the kid would be sent to do one errand that he'd have to go like point A to point B, but instead he like made this crazy path. So I did one of those. I made a map, and it kind of had that feel to it. So you could see everywhere they went on their date, and they're real places in Culver City. So you can go and recreate the date, Mike and Jordan's date from the book. So yeah, I think people just really, it just gives you like this really awesome, like fly on the wall kind of happy. Yeah, it's just like a hug,
I
Oh,
love that description.
yeah, Sierra Simone had the best description. She said it's like the feeling of if reading a book could give you the feeling of being in a candy store. Something like that, but like smarter. But yeah, and that quote is printed on the front of the book. But yeah, she just equated reading the book to like the feeling of being in a candy store, which I think really sums it up.
And so you mentioned, and I mentioned this in your introduction, you also have a book of the romance genre lovers ultimate book of fun and games, which has
Yes.
like word searches and crossword puzzles and all kinds of, I guess you could call them Easter eggs, like fun games for romance readers. Can you tell us how you got the idea for that, and anything else about it, and what kind of reactions have you gotten?
Yeah, I mean, that I would say if Blind Date with a Book Boyfriend is my most popular book, I would say that one is my second most popular, which is wild, because I love puzzles. I mean, as you know, I love puzzles. I love every kind of puzzle. I love cryptograms, word scrambles, word searches, crossword puzzles, all that stuff. And I lately, just because I cannot keep my brain still, I had started making activity books, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen a romance themed activity book. Why isn't there a romance themed activity book? And I looked and I couldn't find one. Does not mean they do not exist. I'm never going to say I'm the first person to do anything, but yeah, I just designed one that, again, the kind of book that I would want. Like if I saw this in a bookstore, I would totally buy it. It's got coloring pages. And they're all romance themed. So there is a Megan Quinn puzzle, and it's a crossword puzzle, and it's all Megan Quinn books. There's the Beverly Jenkins puzzle. There's a pirate romance puzzle. There's a Dukes puzzle. There's a puzzle, a Ruby Dixon, Kit Rosha, um, like a word search with romance publishers, romance podcasts, romance stores, signing events, um, audiobook narrators. It's all encompassing of the romance genre. So it's not just books or audiobooks. It's not just one type of book. It's everything about romance, because it's not just books. It's an entire experience. It's conferences, it's podcasts, blogs, it's social media, it's going to book clubs. It's a very immersive community, and I really wanted the book to reflect that, and I also wanted it to be fun. So it just kind of it was just me just combining two things that I love. Like,
It's very cool. I mean, I'm just speaking as myself. Like, it's really fun. I love all those things too. So along the same, well, similar lines, like you have also branched out into romance subscription boxes that you're part of, and
yes,
you do a lot of in-person signings and events,
yes.
and you sell merchandise for your books. Can you talk kind of about the business side of being a romance author and swag and the boxes, and how you got involved with that, and how that kind of builds your relationship with your readers?
So I've had a ton of different jobs, and my previous experiences I really bring into my career as a romance author or romance loving person. I love art. I love to draw. I love to design. Um, so designing merch was kind of just like second nature to me. It's also a great way to really give readers more of an immersive experience, because they basically crawl into a book and they live in these worlds. So you may want the sweatshirt from the coffee shop that the characters had brunch in, or you might, if they describe the scent of the hero, you might want a candle that smells like the hero. And it's also all things that romance lovers love, as well as books. They love t-shirts and mugs and pens and bookmarks and stickers. There's it's not just about books. It's really catering to your reader, your demographic, and really giving them an entire experience. So yeah, that it's a fun challenge, and yeah, I love it. I love everything about swag and merchandise. And again, when I create these things, don't try. I hope I accomplish. I create what I would want to spend money on. You know, they're like, I would be my best customer. Like, is this something I would want? Is this something I would use? Is this something I would think is funny or, enjoy? So yeah, so that's kind of how it comes about.
And this may be related, may not. Do you see romance novels in general as pure escapism, or do you feel like there's a message or a takeaway for readers, whether your books and or other authors' books? Because I think part of why there is such an interest in the swag and the signings and all these other things adjacent to the books is that people feel such a deep connection with them. So I was
Um,
curious about what you think about that in terms of your books and romance as a whole.
yeah, honestly, I mean, I think for me, my books do have a message. They do have a theme. Um, I try not to get too heavy-handed with that, because my books are essentially comedies. But there's definitely themes of, you know, acceptance, families, um, you know, finding who you are as a person, not just as a person in a relationship. I mean, that's a huge theme in my books. And yeah, my books are very diverse, not just in terms of ethnicity, in terms of, you know, everything like social status, sexuality, um, gender. Like it's just, I write the world that as it is, but also, how I also want it to be and how I think it should be. Um, I wouldn't say romance books are pure escapism because romance is so broad. There are some books that are just like great, fun escapism that you need. And those books are awesome because, gestures to everything going on. There are some books that are more, heavy-handed with a message. There are some books that are, super angsty that just rip your heart out from page one until the end. But yeah, I mean, they're just all over the place. So I think the great thing about that is that romance readers can really find whatever speaks to them. And I think that even the books that don't necessarily have a message or are trying to say something, I think those are also, you know, just as important too, because they make readers, they evoke feelings in readers. And I think that's really important. Just being able to touch somebody with your words or give someone, what they need on that day. Maybe somebody needed a good cry, or they needed to laugh, or they just needed, to get involved in somebody else's story and forget about their own for a while. So yeah, I think they're all important.
And you talked earlier about with Blind Date with a Book Boyfriend, making your book stand out at this signing. And so I'm curious, this could be craft writing advice or other kinds of advice, but do you have advice for romance authors who are just starting out, either just starting with their writing or about to publish their first book, on how to both connect with readers and, you know, the business side of it to, make a name for themselves on social media and create a brand, an author brand, really, as well as, write books that people are going to want to read.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a loaded question, but I do have an answer. So, yeah, if you are writing, like no matter where you are in your author journey, if you're writing, if you're about to publish, or if you've already published something, you want to make sure that you have a mailing list and a newsletter, whether you send out a newsletter once a week or twice a month or once a month or once every 4 months or only when you're publishing something, like having a way to directly connect with your readers without kind of crossing your fingers, posting something on social media and crossing your fingers and hoping that the algorithm shows it to the people you want to see it. Um, I would say have a consistent social media presence. And all consistency means is that you're doing something on some sort of schedule. So if you do not like Instagram, you don't have to be on Instagram. Maybe Facebook is your thing or Twitter is your thing. And, maybe you're posting once a day or 10 times a day or once a week. Just a consistent way to connect with your audience, and so people can connect with you. I said that twice. But if they'll say, what, I really like that author, I wonder if they're doing anything, and they'll go and see your social media and say, oh, the latest post, oh, they have a book coming out, and blah blah blah. There are some authors who are super active on social media, or super active in their Facebook groups, where they just hop in there and talk, and do things. You don't have to do what anyone else is doing. You will find the most success with anything that you are comfortable with. Bonus points if you enjoy it. I should have said enjoy first. Things where you're comfortable and that you'll do consistently, because that's who you are, that's your personality, and that is what will connect you to your readers. You're not trying to get, you know, everybody in the world to read your book. You're just trying to get like a few thousand people, and it's really not that much. It sounds intimidating, but it really isn't that much. If you're consistent and you're yourself, you will find your audience. You know, I could delve deeper into, marketing and advertising and algorithms and all that stuff. I mean, that stuff definitely helps. Um, but if you're just starting out, just carve out your space, figure out where you're comfortable, and get there, and show up there consistently. I would also recommend um, finding a group of authors that are kind of in the same boat as you, like form your own class, kind of to say, and really network with each other. If you're not like an outgoing person, you don't have to like make best friends. You could offer newsletter swaps. If somebody, you can reach out and say hi. If they post a cover reveal, repost their cover. You don't have to get too invasive, or, we're a lot of us authors are introverts, and some of us are, aspiring extroverts, and you definitely don't want to force interaction if you're not comfortable. um, but yeah, I would say, find a social media space, find your space online where you're comfortable, and show up there, make friends. I would say for writing, um, read constantly. Read constantly, and not just romance, not just your genre, but everything that interests you, because it will inform your writing, and it'll shape your writing, and it'll make it more unique. And I love to read, so that's not like, a big deal for me. That's not like a bad homework assignment for me. And I would also say, my final point would say, I would say, write what you love to write. Sometimes, what I love to write and what I love to read are two different things. So, there are certain genres that I've tried to write and I know I can't do it, but I love reading those genres. But yeah, you like write what you love to write, because the writing will go faster and it's fun. You'll enjoy yourself, and that will really come through when you're writing. Your reader will enjoy it, because they can, somehow intuitively tell, how much fun you had while you were writing it. And that's all. At the end of the day, our books are entertainment. So if you're entertained while you're creating it, the people you're creating it for are going to be entertained as well. If you're just slogging through something, or writing it because, you did market research and this is what everyone else is reading, or somebody wrote this book and it, was number one on Amazon, that's great for them. Most times it won't work. It just won't work. doing it that way. So that's my 2 cents or 4 cents.
Thank you. That all makes sense. And please come hear Lucy in person, or you can get a virtual ticket to Desire East Summit, October 7th and 8th in Jersey City, New Jersey. We will have lots of panels. She'll be on the one about romance writing and erotica writing. And Lucy, can you just tell us where people can follow you and what you're working on next?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on finishing up the swag boxes for winter and spring because, as you can tell, it is now summer, so they're very late. But I'm working on finishing those, getting those out to my very eager beaver readers who've been waiting so patiently for them. And yeah, I'm also working on 2 novels and a novella. I like to write more than one book at a time. And yeah, that's about it. Just prepping for other, signings and events later on in the year. But you can check out my website. It's lucyeden.com, and that has links to all of my social media. And my social media handle on everything is at Lucy Eden Author. So you can find me everywhere.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.